There's a particular AI chatbot which is making waves, and people are asking it questions, and it's offering very articulate responses. Not hugely interesting responses, but articulate responses. So, Alistair Fairweather, the co-founder of PlainSpeak, in the studio with me. Morning.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
What's this thing, the one that we're going to be using? How do I access it?
It's called OpenGPT or ChatGPT. So the only difficulty is they're going to want you to sign in, but it doesn't take a second to sign up.
So ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, yes.
Okay, well, I'm trying to do this. Just tell the listeners who haven't been reading about ChatGPT, which has got quite a lot of media coverage over the last several months.
Yes, yeah, like the last two in particular, yes.
Okay.
So what it is it's a deep learning, machine learning model, which in English means that they have fed this algorithm, this piece of software, enormous amounts of data, petabytes of data. And what these things are is, in many respects, statistical tricks. And that sounds dismissive, but it's actually very impressive when we will see the results now. Sometimes more impressive than in others. And it essentially takes all of the human knowledge it could find on the internet and in other sources. So they fed it books, digitized, obviously. They fed it some video. They fed it all sorts of other things. And it makes a big map of all of our knowledge, which is obviously enormous. And then it understands in more or less plain language when you ask it questions about this knowledge. So it can't originate anything itself, it can't make anything up, but it can tell you things, quite well, quite specifically. It can tell you about anything that it finds, and it's not just copying and pasting. I think that's a very important thing for people to understand, and what makes this so impressive. If you ask it a question and it answers that question for you, it will give you text that doesn't exist on the internet per se. And I've tested this by asking it questions, getting it to make stuff, or not make stuff, getting it to tell me about something, and then looking through a plagiarization service to check whether something's plagiarized. You can, out of interest, if there are any teachers or professors listening, they probably know about these already, but they are quite impressive. It's a similar sort of a thing. You feed in an essay by a student, and then it tells you this is how plagiarized this essay is. So it's very useful for checking whether the quote-unquote artificial intelligence is just copying and pasting from Wikipedia, but it isn't, not as far as I can tell. It's doing what it's alleged to do, which is looking through its memory, its knowledge of all of the human knowledge that it's been fed, and coming up with the best possible answer it can in human friendly knowledge. I mean, we could try it out if you'd like.
Well, I'm asking it who you are.
Oh, one shudders to think.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I don't have information about a person named Alistair Fairweather.
Oh dear!
Could you provide full context?
That's even worse than slander. My goodness. Okay, that's fantastic.
Who is John Maytham? I'm probably
you'll
even more puzzled.
You'll definitely be in there because you're a public figure, and I'm decidedly not.
Who is John Maytham? I'm sorry, but I don't have any information about a person named John Maytham.
Oh,
so we're in the same boat. We're not important.
We're
not important enough. Okay, so
it's quite good on topics, which are like very broad and general. So is there something you'd like to understand more about how does the internet work? That's probably a little bit too broad. But
yeah. How does what? How does weather forecasting work?
Oh, that should be an interesting one.
The limitations are that it can only respond with what it has available.
Yes.
And it has an enormous amount of information available, but it doesn't have any information about Alistair Fairweather and John Maytham and probably quite a lot else.
Yes, I think it's got a lot of what we might call
Okay, so I've already got an answer. Weather forecasting is the science of predicting the future state of the Earth's atmosphere. It is a complex process that involves gathering data from a variety of sources such as... So, I mean, it's very immediate, and it's
It's quick as well. I mean, it's
and it's I can understand the answer, but that's not a particularly interesting question.
so what's interesting?
Folks, give us WhatsApp me an interesting question. WhatsApp me an interesting question that you would like to get an answer from this chatbot.
So what I've found is interesting is it can do things like imitate people. So you can say describe Cape Town in the words in the style of Ernest Hemingway. I've never tried this one, so these
Okay,
are all...
well, I've just been given this. Does pineapple belong on pizza? There is no one right answer to this question, as people have different preferences when it comes to pizza toppings. Some people love pineapples on their pizza, while others do not. It is a matter of personal taste.
My goodness.
Pineapple is a tropical fruit that is often used as a pizza topping. It is sweet and juicy, and some people think that it pairs well with savory flavors such as cheese and ham. However, others find that the sweetness of the pineapple is too strong and clashes with the savory flavors of the pizza. Ultimately, it is up to each individual to decide whether they like pineapple on their pizza or not. Some people enjoy trying new and unconventional pizza toppings, while others prefer more traditional combinations. So this is something that I've read in articles about it, that it doesn't take opinions. I mean, it doesn't offer opinions. It offers information, but if you say to it, are the Republicans a better political party than the Democrats in the United States, it's not going to make a choice for you.
No, I mean, there's that. There's the fact that it is very difficult to make that choice at all. I mean, I obviously have made my own choice on that because of my politics, but better is such a weasel word.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, now I just asked it to describe Donald Trump in the style of Hunter S. Thompson, which is quite fun normally, and it says to me, it would be appropriate for me to describe any individual, including former President Trump, in the style of Hunter S. Thompson, as Thompson's writing was often characterized by subjective, irreverent tone, and I am an AI language model trained to be objective and respectful. So this is actually a very good point. This is actually a very important part of this is, although it knows it has all of human knowledge and all of the insults ever hurled at Donald Trump and also all of the praise ever heaped on him, it will desist from either, and that is not a matter of its natural state, if you will. In its natural state, it's like the human id. It will just tell you whatever it finds, the most insulting things it can, or the least insulting things it can. But the training is what's important. So the training is actually what the humans have the most influence over, apart from the initial building of the thing. When humans build these algorithms and then unleash them on the data, they to a degree become emergent. They're fed these petabytes of data, and humans more or less lose control. Makes it sound like the Matrix or something. They don't lose control, but they don't really know what's going on the inside there. It does. They understand the broad theory, but they're not sure what the outcomes are going to be. So what they do is they do this thing called training, which is, okay, I know you know everything now, all the swear words, all the dreadful stuff, but we're going to ask you, please, Mr. AI, if people ask you these kinds of questions, you don't answer them straight, because first of all, it's too subjective, as you can see, so that you train it. This is subjective language and subjective topics, and also it's likely to be offensive, even when you don't mean to be. So people, of course, the first things they tried before they did a lot of training on this was to get the thing to say sexist or homophobic or racist words.
Yeah.
There were a few people who managed to get some marginally offensive things out, and then the trainers trained a bit more, and now you just can't. And I mean, I think that
it's now so vanilla that, on the basis of the few questions that I've asked of it, the most recent one from a listener, that while I was listening to why
Sure.
people sad on Sundays, there could be a variety of reasons why people might feel sad on Sundays. For some, Sunday might be a day of rest and relaxation, but for others, it might be a reminder that the weekend is coming to an end and the work week is about to begin. Another reason why people might feel sad on Sundays is because they're experiencing loneliness or isolation. For some, Sunday might be a day when they are not able to spend time with. So, I mean,
Sure.
it's really so bland that I can't imagine using it ever again.
So
until it becomes less bland.
So there's that. That's a point. I think that what it's very good at is, if you need to understand something better, it's better than Google, because although
okay.
Google is very good, Google is becoming better at these things. to a large degree by using the same kind of tech as these guys, just behind the Google brand and in the in the Google verse, to discern what you're actually asking. People in general are quite bad at asking computers good questions, and it's improved enormously. If you think about back to the 1990s. You really couldn't ask, and the fact is that it's two things. People are quite bad at asking specific questions of the entire corpus of knowledge that are known to human beings, but also computers are bad at understanding us. So they've now made computers much better at understanding us. So the vanilla stuff, it's less fun than it used to be.
Yeah.
But if you really need to understand a topic, it's very, very good at giving you a précis of that topic, obviously very quickly, and that could be very useful and will be very useful. And you're already seeing it used by school children, researchers in general. Why are people sad? I asked Google that, and the first was a link to an article on a website called betterhelp.com, What is Sunday Depression? The next one was Sunday Sadness is Real, Here's How to Battle That, which is a link to a CNN story. The next is a link to an article on a website called The School of Life.com. What is that Sunday evening feeling? We're sad or panicked because a part of us recognizes that time is running out and that we're not presently doing what we should with the remains. Those are significantly more interesting responses to that question than the chatbots. Yes. So what Google is doing is it's finding good sources of human-generated content. Humans are going to be better at generating content for a long while now. But if you are a harried news writer looking for a précis of something which happened recently, so OpenAI is the company that, or the foundation that runs this chat that we're using right now. They have another chat, not another chat. They have another service which they're also sort of offering right now for free, which writes things. The name of course now escapes me, but it's much more writerly. And it will generate quite usable paragraphs and sentences about topics that you could feasibly, with a little bit of grooming, slot into the middle of a very fact-heavy news story. It wouldn't make the news story pop, but say you need to write 2,000 words and it can handle 800 or 1,000 of them quite well enough. You've now cut your time in half to write that story, or even less, because you don't have to look up as many of the things. You can just fact check them. And people are starting to say that this thing might take jobs away from people in the not too distant future. Remember, this is version 0.1.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, somebody asked me to ask the chatbot to explain the theory of relativity, and I added a wrinkle there, explain the theory of relativity in the style of Ernest Hemingway. And what it gave me is a very reasonable understanding of the theory of relativity, but nothing to do with the style of Ernest Hemingway.
Boo.
The theory of relativity developed by Albert Einstein is a theory that describes the relationship between space and time. It suggests that the laws of physics are the same for all people, regardless of their relative motion, and that the speed of light is constant. And then there are another 3 paragraphs in that, which are, I think, a really good explanation of the theory of relativity, which fits in with what you were saying about how it would be helpful in education.
Yes.
So, but to pick up where you finished, version 0.0000, what is the known about how it might develop and how much more sophisticated it might be? Because I'm sure there are theories about an AI-dominated world, but in terms of what we know about technology at the moment, where is this likely to go in the next couple of years as more training is done?
So in the next 5 years, it's going to become difficult to get students at schools and universities to write completely original essays. Near impossible. So that's one example of where it's going to be good enough. Because I've watched it get better over the last 2 years at imitating the way humans write in a way that's untraceable. So that's going to be a thing. The thing to understand about artificial intelligence right now is that none of it's general, or AGI, artificial general intelligence. It's all specific intelligence. But that specific intelligence is good enough at doing, or imitating at the very least, things that humans do right now for their day jobs. So in the next 5 years, we're going to start to see the first examples of people being pushed out by AI
In what fields? Where's that likely?
Accounting. It's a
Well, a
really
world without accountants, it's not so. I'm kidding, all my accountant friends.
sure tax lawyers, lower-end tax lawyers, anything which is systematic and procedural. If you're a junior, if you start a PR agency and you need a junior writer, you think, am I going to employ a junior writer for my run-of-the-mill press releases? Maybe not. Maybe you can just have one and they can do the work of three, poor creature. And you just teach them what's going to become a job is a trainer, is an AI trainer. But one AI, it's like automation in factories. One AI trainer might be able to do the job of 5 technicians. And this is really going to become, as coding is becoming and the internet in general is becoming, this isn't pejorative, a blue-collar job is a job for technicians, for people who know how to connect A to Z and how to do so efficiently enough that it works. And it doesn't have to be, you don't need the world's best plumber to come to your house to do a good enough job for you to have 5 years of no more leaks. Or maybe 5 years is a bit too long, 1 year. And he only costs X amount or she only costs X amount. And that's what we're going to start to see, is we're going to start to see knowledge workers being replaced by tech, which has almost never happened before.
Yeah.
Or very, very rarely. I mean, it was replaced by, in the 1980s and 90s, we saw some serious replacement, but those people were moved on to other things. And a very good question is whether these jobs are going to, these knowledge worker jobs are going to be able to all become trainers or all become something else. But the disruption is already happening, and now it's going to start to accelerate. And this is the sign of how good this thing is at understanding humans, for all of its blandness, is a sign that it's going to start taking those jobs.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time.
Will Manchester United win the Premier League? I asked it, and it replied, I'm sorry, but I don't have information about current or future events, as my knowledge was cut off in 2021, and I am unable to browse the internet or access updated information. It is not possible for me to predict the outcome of future events or tell you whether Manchester United will win the Premier League. I asked Google, and Google took me to a lot of articles where people were making predictions about the possibility. None of them, sadly, were saying that Manchester United might win the Premier League. So at the moment, now, as it is,
yes,
what is it better for than Google is? Or any of the other search engines?
It's good for making a pricey that you can then crib,
yeah,
really. That's what it's best at right now. And it's best for learning how to train. Being an AI trainer is a job. It's going to be a serious job. It won't be called that necessarily, but that is going to be. And by training, I mean asking it the right questions in the right format to get the absolutely best out of it. Learning to dance with the AI to get it to make someone else's job or your job easier. If you're a little 1 or 2 man band like I am, it's going to be super useful, super useful. Even if I'm not trying to pull the wool, I wouldn't be pulling the wool over clients' eyes, but pricing a topic which someone needs to know about and they don't know that the AI exists, and you can do something for them in 5 minutes which impresses the hell out of them, it's super useful, super useful.
And it impresses the hell out of them in a factually correct way.
Yeah. It's not.
I mean, at this stage, it's not going to make wild leaps of fancy that might look.
It makes mistakes. You can ask it sort of. People famously asked it, "What's the fastest marine mammal?" And it said a peregrine falcon, and they were like, "You say to it, that's not a mammal," and it says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake." I think they might have corrected that one bit.
Fastest? What fastest?
Marine mammal. Yeah.
Marine mammal.
I think they've definitely corrected that. It also learns from us. It's another thing that's important that I didn't mention, is that it learns from what people ask it. And when people tell it...
The fastest marine mammal is the peregrine falcon, which is capable of diving at speeds at up to 20
So it hasn't learned from that mistake.
Well, it does say in terms... but it says the fastest marine mammal is the peregrine falcon.
Yeah.
In the next paragraph, it says, in terms of marine mammals, such as whales, dolphins, and seals, the fastest species is the sailfish. They are able to swim at speeds of up to 68 miles an hour.
So it eventually gets it right, but it tells you that a bird is a mammal, and it tells you that it's marine, which it's not, so it's not great.
Alistair, the last question, and I've saved the most important question for last. am I going to be replaced by one of these?
No. I mean, what the thing is, personality, as you've seen, is lacking.
Yeah.
And even if they were allowed
Well, they say that about me as well.
Oh, yes, indeed. Personality is lacking, and human creativity is utterly lacking, and human charm, tone. It's even were it allowed to insult Donald Trump at will, it wouldn't be able to be interesting, and not in the way that a human can, engaging. No, that's a long way away. Even with AGI, a lot of people say that AGI wouldn't be engaging, and that creativity might be the last true creativity, and emotion and empathy would be our sort of last bastion against the machines.
Okay. Alistair Fairweather, thank you very much for coming in, co-founder at Plainspeak, and if you commission them to do any work in the next couple of months,
pay close attention.
Yeah, pay close attention. The sailfish is not a mammal, and in the third paragraph we do get to a marine mammal. The fastest marine mammal is the killer whale, which can swim at speeds of up to 56 miles an hour. The short-finned pilot whale, up to 45 miles an hour. These speeds are still much slower than the peregrine falcon, which is the fastest animal in the world. Finally, in that last sentence, it gets it right.
Afternoon Drive with John Maytham
on CapeTalk.